that one glorious word represents more than just the geography between the Sabine and the Rio Grande. It represents a unique idea and way of life. A life of rugged individualism, proud self-reliance, gritty toughness, and fierce independence. That is what made Texas, and that is what will save her again. Howdy, folks. Sam Houston here. I want to thank you for tuning into the Feed Bandit podcast. Feed Bandit is the Texas first outdoors brand built by rabid Texans, for rabid Texans, and all those who aim to be one someday. We unapologetically promote the ideals that shape our Texas pride and Texas first patriotism through our love of hunting, the outdoors, and the gear and apparel we create. Texas, above all else, preserve the tradition, protect the legacy. Check us out at feedbandit.com. And to repeat that great rallying cry from a former colleague of mine, liberty or death. Now, enough of my talking. Here are a couple of bandits that love Texas as much as I do. Enjoy.
Howdy, friend. Welcome back to the Feed Bandit podcast. Jimmy back with you. And on this one, we're going to continue our series on predator strategies. And on the previous edition of the series, we talked about what caliber rifle one should and could use for, going after the coyotes and the other predators that are out there. And in this one, let's talk about what shotguns you can use and other primitive tools, if you will, that we can use to go after predators. We've been going through the book called Predator Calling with Jerry Blair. He does have a unique writing style with all of his kind of names and, illusions and things like that. So I hope you're maybe enjoying that writing style. It does throw you off when you're kind of reading through it, though. But anyway, that's neither here nor there, although it is here and now. But let's just get going on this and let's see what he says about using shotguns for predators. All right. It was a desert day to be remembered. A November night rain had traveled from Baja to water the desert. Giant saguaro, as they almost always do, took a greedy drink through their stingy root system, causing the ribbed exterior to swell with delicious enthusiasm. The long-limbed ocotillo, being a bit crazy by nature, thought the rain to be a signal of spring. Bare limbs turned new leaf green. A few of the hardcore crazies produced flowers of a brilliant red, so pretty I could only stand to look with one eye. Ah, the desert after a rain. That night rain freshened the ground and the air, causing both to look as pristine as on creation day. I scrunched a bit deeper into the friendly limbs of the creosote bush and sang my favorite song, the Dying Rabbit Blues. I heard the customers coming before sight was possible. The wet ground and the cleansed air cooperated to cause the thumping of the gallop to be drumbeat loud. A pair of storm-hungry coyote, I figured, and I raised the massive maul of the 10-gauge autoloader I call the Moose Dick, and readied myself physically and mentally. Seconds later, the desperate duo became an intimidating presence not more than 30 yards out. The first pattern of tightly choked, copper-plated BBs took the leader, the easy one, full face on. I was swinging to the trailer a semi-second after the boom, following as the critter made the desperate turn to begin the run for home. The second shot connected before that turn was fully complete. Those few seconds of action caused a pair of prime silver bellies to hit the ground graveyard dead and provided hunt excitement. The shotgun, I'm convinced, deserves much of a credit for the clean kills. Knowing my limitations, knowing I'm not the greatest offhand rifle shot in the world, I'm betting I would not have collected 2 coyote on that screaming if I had carried the rifle. Hell, I might as well be totally honest. It is possible I might have missed both. The shotgun is my gun of choice when I scream shotgun-friendly country. What kind of country is that? Tight country. Creosote-choked desert flats, chaparral. Winter woods stripped of leaves and ground cover providing some vision opportunity, all at close range. Any kind of country where the customer has to come sure kill close to get a look at the rabbit. How close is sure kill close, you ask? Depends, I answer. Sure kill range varies as the body size of the target varies, as the gauge of the gun varies, as the constriction of the bore varies, and as the nature of the gunner varies. Permit me to share opinions on each of these considerations. Gauge is an easy explanation. The screamer who hunts coyote-sized critters, which are about 30 pounds or so in the west, 40 pounds or so in the east, will do best when equipped with one of the gauges I call the big bangers. I refer to the 3.5-inch 10 gauge, the 3.5-inch 12 gauge, and the 3-inch 12 gauge. Each of those bangers has the muscle needed to reach out and touch a coyote at reasonable ranges. The bigger the bore, the way I see it, the better the banger. The gun I call Moose Stick can be a sensible choice for hunters who scream a lot. My gun is one of the older Ithaca Mag 10s, a big junkyard dog kind of a gun, having the assets needed to rug out a mature dog coyote at surprising range, out to about 50 yards, at times a bit more. When stuffed to capacity, one of the 10 gauge holes holds 2 full ounces of BBs, maybe more. Even though the gas-operated auto-loading action drains off a bit of the recoil, the kick can be substantial. I do not mean to say that the Mag 10 will kill at one end and cripple at the other. I do say that those who have the correct body size will find the recoil to be tolerable, particularly when you consider that screaming shot opportunities might be limited to half a handful a day. What is the correct body size for the 10 gauge? I consider my own to be dandy. 6-foot frame of substantial weight. A hunting incident illustrates the good body, bad body equation. I was on the hunt for a pair of raccoon who amused themselves by robbing the corn crib on a Texas ranch. Wildlife biologist Bill Del Monte and I traveled to the area to do a bit of night screaming. Minutes into the hunt, 4 eyeballs showed in the beam of the nightlight. Nope, it wasn't the rare 4-eyed coon. It was, instead, a pair of 2-eyed raccoon coming at the lope, shoulder to shoulder. Bill handled the light and illuminated the corn lovers when they paused for a reconnoiter 30 yards out. Knowing that the first shot would be easy and the second shot less easy, I gambled. I placed the barrel bead between the 2 heads. A trigger twitch later, and both coon were rugged. "Holy moly," Bill exclaimed. "That was impressive." And then he asked a fateful question. "Does that gun kick you?" I admitted it did not and offered Bill the opportunity to see for himself. He took dead aim at a stump and let the fire. The recoil bruised his shoulder, backed him up, and hurt his feelings. "I thought you said the gun didn't kick," he grumbled. I said, I answered, "it didn't kick me." Even though the gun kicked each of us equally, Bill's 150-pound body was affected more than my own 250-pound body. The assets provided by the 10-gauge autoloader are obvious. You got range and knockdown power. Each of those allows a clean kill at extended range. The auto-loading feature permits a couple of fast follow-up shots if need be. Not often required when dealing with a single customer, but almost always needed when the coyote, the fox, the bobcat, and the raccoon come like grapes in bunches. 10-gauge defects can be equally obvious. Recoil has been mentioned. The cost of the gun and the cost of the shot shells can cause a hernia to all but the most muscular budgets. The 10-gauge autoloader, as most know, is currently made and marketed by the Remington Arms Company using the old Ithaca Mag 10 configuration. And purchase price will trash out a $1,000 bill, maybe leaving enough left over for a few boxes of fodder. The buying of that fodder, sad to say, can cause a cold wind to blow through the bank account. I figure each bang out of that big booger blows a $1 bill. Wow. Oh, well, now what is it now? At least $2? I'm not sure. I have to look that up. Although I don't have a 10 gauge, so I guess it doesn't really matter for me. That's good news. The bad news, unless you shoot a hell of a lot, maybe more, the cost of equipment can cause savings to disappear. Hunters who work the flyways for high-traveling honkers and other waterfowl, particularly those who hope to steal the goose, will find the 10 gauge to be dandy. Other all-season hunters will be less pleased. The 10 gauge is not a grouse gun. It's not a quail gun, nor is it a rabbit gun. Hunters who own the small gun safe, those who must make do with one general-purpose smoothbore, are advised to think 12. The recently revived 3.5-inch 12-gauge, best typified by the Ultramag pump gun made by Mossberg, can be a sensible substitute. The 3.5-inch hole, as long as a 10-gauge hole but not as fast, delivers decent punch-out to about 50 yards. All that was said about the 10-gauge can be said about the 3.5-inch 12, reduced by about 15%. I see one important defect in the 3.5-inch 12. Factory fodder offerings are limited. The 3.5-inch 12, like the 3.5-inch 10, was engineered to be a steel shotgun for waterfowl. Shot shell manufacturers do not offer much for the critter caller. Now, him saying that, so I have a Remington 870 Super Mag in 12 gauge, and I reckon that would probably be all you need, truly, for if you're wanting to go predator hunting. You can put virtually any size shell in that thing, and go about your business. So take a look at that one, the Super Mag from Remington 870. I got the pump. It's a great gun. Yeah, actually, the first gun I ever bought was that gun. Thinking positive, the cost of a gun such as the Ultimag can be less than half the cost of a gun such as Remington SP10, and unlike the 10, the 3.5-inch 12 will accept the less long shot shells, the 3-inch 12 and the 2 3/4-inch 12. Well, just like the 870 Super Mag I was just talking about. Even though guns designed to handle the long 12 holes are somewhat clubby, such can be crammed with reduced shot loads and pointed at about any kind of game susceptible to a smoothbore. The tried and true 12, fitted with a chamber long enough to accept the 3-inch shell, can be a dandy choice for screamers who intend to make one gun answer all smoothbore needs. Experience causes me to favor the autoloader, typified by the venerable Remington Model 1187 SP. The SP stands for Special Purpose, a designation applied to guns made specifically as ambush guns, all having a non-glare metal finish. Sometimes achieved through chemically altering the metal and sometimes achieved through camo painting, and all have a low luster finish to wood or plastic parts. Yeah, so that Super Mag I have is all black, but it's like a matte black, so it doesn't have that really shiny look to it. The 3-inch 12, an autoloader or in pump gun, does a decent job on called critters and on flyway waterfowl. Stuffing the magazine with 2 3/4-inch loads of the proper shot size can cause the gun to turn attention to mind-boggling variety of feathered and furred critters. Even though I mention only the autoloader and the pump, I'm aware of other shotgun configurations. The single shot and the stack barrel and side-by-side doubles. Those who own that kind of gun will likely find the gun to be decent, subject to the limitations noted during the discussion of other shotgun types. And see, I use a side-by-side 20 gauge when I go dove hunting that I probably would not use, I wouldn't think, if I'm going out predator hunting. But it's not to say you couldn't, I guess. It just depends on your location and all that. And even though I have discussed only the 10 gauge and the 12 gauge, I'm aware lesser gauges exist. I consider the 16 gauge, the 20 gauge, and the 28 gauge, and the 410 caliber to be unsuited for heavy-duty predators. Well, there you have it. I'm not saying such cannot be used. I say, instead, that those lightweights can cause the job of critter killing to be more difficult than need be. Some mention must be made of barrel constriction, commonly called degree of choke. Tightly choked guns cause the shot disbursement to be delayed, delivering a dense pattern at a surprising distance. Super tight chokings have been made available to those who hide in the bushes to make a noise, like a turkey's girlfriend. That kind of hunter calls the gobbler to somewhat close range, 25 to 35 yards, and aims for the turkey's head, a target of about hardball size. Too large a pattern spread can cause a miss. Those tightly choked turkey guns can do a fine job on called critters, delivering a dense pattern to animal necessaries. A tightly choked gun delivering a dense pattern offers an advantage. That advantage may turn to a disadvantage. A careless shouldering or a careless aim can cause the dense pattern to be off target. Some screamers compensate. They add an extra barrel bead and sometimes fit the gun with open or glass sights. More on that within the chapter dealing with sights. So we'll get to that at some point. But first, we're going to go now on to hunting gun with what they call primitives. The fur takers mentioned to this point have been the kind of killers that cause the killing to be less difficult. Fast and flat-shooting centerfires like the 222, the 223, and the 22-250, and shotguns of 10 and 12 gauge subspecies. Knowing there are those who find pleasure in doing the difficult, this chapter will discuss screaming critters close to the front stuffer, the handgun, and the stick and string. Stick and string. See his writing style. I say at the start, I do not intend to say a lot on the subjects of screaming to the primitives, knowing that those who have answered this extra challenge will be somewhat small percentage of the readership. Those who enjoy the smell of black powder will find the muzzleloader to be a decent fur getter. There is the obvious handicap caused by the one-shot capability. The reloading, even using speed loaders, offers sufficient time for the slowest of foot to make the escape before the powder is poured and patched, before the lead is ramrodded home, and before the capping or priming. A second disadvantage comes from the relative inaccuracy provided by even the best of the black smoke belchers. None I've handled offer the pinpoint accuracy provided by the Deuce or by any other of the 224 genre. The question of caliber is one that can be confusing to those not familiar with the ballistics of the muzzleloader. The slow speed of the projectile does not offer the advantage or disadvantage of expansion. A 36 caliber ball, a 36 caliber maxiball, a 36 caliber chunk of rock will deliver a 36 caliber entry and a 36 caliber exit. All the above in 54 caliber will deliver an entry and an exit of 54 caliber. So what's the difference? Not a hell of a lot, speaking fur-wise. I shot a 54 caliber for all of my big game hunting and used that same 54 caliber on called critters. The entry and exit fur tears are easily repaired. The big chunk of lead delivers the big whack, causing the recipient to be graveyard dead in an instant. Those who handgun hunt will find paranoid predators to be hard to get. Shooting from the set can be difficult. The target, much of the time, is on the move, compounding the degree of difficulty. Here's a technique I use to handgun fur, a technique that works some of the time. I find it best to buddy hunt when I head out with a holstered handgun. I find it to be too tough working alone, not enough hands to do all that needs to be done. A solo hunter can do about as well if he or she trades the tube for the battery-powered collar. I find a comfortable set that places me against a tree or to the front of a bush, anything to cause my big body to blend, and set so that my body is squared to the anticipated approach. I draw up the knees and use those drawn-up knees to support the arms. Using the two-handed hold, I stay ready for customers. If the critter comes running, as most do, I lip squeak, growl, or cuss to cause the critter to slide to a stop. Then I take the shot. Taking a coyote, cat, or fox using the bow and arrow is a most difficult endeavor. A certain amount of motion is needed to make the draw and to take aim. Releasing the hold causes the arrow to fly, and that causes a movement that can alarm the customer. A quick-footed coyote, sad to say, can dodge an arrow and have time left to scratch a flea. So what to do? Take a tip from the archers who take stick and string to the spring turkey woods, the turkey being about equal to the coyote in degree of paranoia use, every advantage available. As noted in the discussion on handguns, it's important to have the screaming isolated from the shooter. This can be done by having a buddy call, or it can be done using the battery-powered collar. It's also important to give the customer something to look at when he or she comes to do business. A coyote coming to the screams expects to see something. If they do not, they will not stay around for long. Consider the use of a decoy, preferably one that moves to satisfy expectations. That decoy can deliver a second advantage. Look at the decoy and make it less likely the critter will look at you. Let's see if I can find a picture of old Duncan that Corn Bandit made and used to put out for predator hunting. Speaking of decoys, the use of a brush or a commercial blind, each provided with shooting ports, can be critical to success. The blind hides necessary, even unnecessary movement from the critter. Finally, and this is important, cross the fingers. If it is in your nature to do so, pray. Taking a coyote, a fox, or a cat using a bow and arrow can be really difficult. And that would be really in all caps. All right. Well, I'm going to leave this one on that note there. Give you some food for thought when considering, I don't want to take a rifle this time, but, I think I could, let's take a shotgun out there. Grab your bigger caliber, it sounds like, makes it easier. Most people, I don't know, shouldn't say most people, but not a lot of people I know have a 10 gauge. Almost everybody that I know has a 12 gauge at least, probably. You could probably take that out and you'd be fine. No one I know actually goes out purposely to hunt predators with a bow and arrow. That could be something cool to do. He didn't mention anything about a crossbow. That might be easier because I guess you you can have it cocked and ready to go and just kind of sitting there maybe on like a tripod for when a predator came in. That would probably work. A pistol. Only time I ever shot a pistol at something like that is, when you're driving around and you happen to have a pistol and you see something running and you take a couple pot shots at it, hoping that you might hit it. Never purposely gone out and hunted with a pistol for predators, but, that could be fun. Assuming you have, a big enough caliber to do it, depending on the pistol. But yeah, that's, just some food for thought. If you wanted to go out and try to get some predators with a shotgun, a bow, or a pistol, something like that. All things to consider, all things to add a little spice to your hunting life. All right, well, I hope you appreciated that one. Stay tuned for more. We're putting these out quite frequently, so really appreciate you listening. Also, check out our Texas History Roundup every day. You can get your 5 minutes of Texas history. And then go check out feedbandit.com, feedbandit or feedbanditgear.com. You can see what we have out there as far as the polos that we have available now and the bandit caps. Camp polos is what we call them, and then bandit caps. So the hats that we have out there available. We think you'll find at least something that you like. And check them out. Sign up for our email list. You can get a 10% off code. And we got a bundle where if you buy, 3 polos, you can get an extra polo or a hat for free. So go check it out. And that's automatically applied, at checkout. But anything you do helps us out and keeps this podcast on the air. All right. Well, I really appreciate you listening, and we will catch you on the next one. Remember, support your local feed store.
Well, I hope the bandits gave you an interesting episode that either entertained or educated you. Or better yet, both. Hell, I told them this podcasting thing looks harder to do than defeating Santa Anna. So if you would, please help them out by sharing it with all your like-minded friends to help the bandits get the word out. And don't forget to check us out at feedbandit.com and grab some gear and apparel to support the cause of Texas. Remember, Texas, above all else, preserve the tradition, protect the legacy. Finally, as I said some time ago on the eve of the great battle, and I vigorously repeat here again, be men, be free men, that your children may bless their father's name. Well, fellow bandit, until next time.